Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call to order our Tuesday, June 9th City Council meeting. Welcome, everyone. It looks like we have some youth that are visiting us, so we hope you enjoy this meeting. There's nothing I know that youth enjoys more than a good meeting. So we are going to get things started. Our City Attorney, Brad Jepson, has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll turn to him. Thank you, Brad. And tonight, our thought or prayer is going to be offered by Councilmember Child.
I'll do a quick thought and a quick prayer. So this is one of my favorite quotes. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I love that. And as we see, we were just talking about the America 250 celebrations happening in Utah, or in Bountiful this summer, and that is put together by a small group of thoughtful citizens. So, right. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet together tonight, grateful for the circumstances in which we meet. We pray for thy guidance and direction, for clear and open minds, for empathy, for the ability to make the best decisions. We are grateful for thy presence here tonight, and this we pray in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for the prayer, and thank you for the reminder of what a dedicated small group of people can accomplish. Next on our agenda is public comment time. We begin our meeting each time with public comment. We have 10 minutes of public comment. We'd invite anyone that is interested in doing so to take up to 2 minutes in public comment. Please introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from. I will note for the audience, we have several items tonight that have their own separate public hearing. So if the item you are interested in giving public comment on is related to an item later in our agenda related to the budget that has a public hearing, we'd ask that you wait and use that designated time. This public comment period is for more general comments unrelated to those items later in the agenda. So with that, I will open up public comment time. And is there anyone that would like to offer comment this evening? Apparently I scared everyone away from the microphone. All right, we will close public comment. Councilmembers, the next item is approval of the minutes of previous meetings held on May 26th, 2026. Has the council had an opportunity to consider those minutes? Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting held on May 26th.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Murray and a second from Councilmember Higginson to approve the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Councilmember Murray, I don't see anyone from the Youth Council here to give a report. Do you?
There's no one, they're still in the process of formulating the new leadership council for this year.
It's like they are adhering to the school calendar and are off for summer.
Yeah, vacations seem to take priority.
Okay. Well, we will look forward to hearing from the Youth Council when they have organized for the new school year. We'll move on to council reports. We'll start on this end this week with Councilmember Bell. Do you have a council report to offer?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick report from the South Davis Rec District. We had our meeting last night. Just three things specifically. We did approve, the board approved that interlocal agreement between the district and Bountiful City. So we had a good discussion about those services that Bountiful City staff provide to the district. And that went really well. There was real appreciation by the board for the services that Bountiful City provides the district. And so really felt good about that. And so that's good, and that'll be another year of those services. So that's great. And thank you to Tyson and staff and David, all those who are there and are helping with this. A lot of good goes on from our city staff to help this happen. The second thing was just, it was already mentioned a little bit briefly, but I thought it would be fun to mention. One of the things that's happening by the district is they have, of course, the movie night at the town square, and it was alluded to earlier that the July 11th, I think, is the film will be National Treasure. On June 13th, it will be Zootopia 2, and then on August 1st, it will be Project Hail Mary. So I was excited about that. That'll be fun, so really appreciate that, what happens there. The final item was just the Davis interlocal agreement, or the Davis County Education District, the interlocal agreement dealing with the pool or the swimming clubs. With any luck, that's happening this week, that they're meeting. We hope to approve that, so we haven't got a final approval. We know it's been in some subcommittees, but hopefully the next time we meet, we can put that one to rest and give a report that that's passed and move forward. So with that, I think that's all that I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. I look forward to the report that you will give at some point in the near future that interlocal with the school district is complete. That one is a long time coming, and so I will personally be excited when you report that is done. Councilmember Segura-Bart, do you have a council report?
Nothing this evening. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Child.
Yes, I'd like to report that the Bountiful Davis Art Center won the Best Gallery in Davis award the other day. We went to the awards breakfast, and that was a fun recognition of our local art center. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray?
Nothing to report tonight. One is they are out spraying for mosquitoes. I do appreciate the emails of those that have concerns. Please feel free to send that information to me, and I will take that to our director. But I have also learned by instructions of my wife that all mosquitoes should be killed. But I've learned that some of the spraying that they're doing now is really focused on the mosquitoes that are prone to carrying West Nile virus. That is their first target, is to make sure that we minimize that. Since last year, I think every city in Davis County had traces of West Nile virus. So,
Thank you for the update and the service. And I recently put in for one of the spray requests, thanks to some mosquitoes finding their way to my yard. So please pass on my thanks that the service is coming to spray. Councilmember Higginson.
Just a couple of thanks, and one piece of information as well. Appreciate those who took part in the America 250 angle of the Chalk Art Festival. Chalk Art Festival was fantastic. Got to spend several evenings down there with family. The mini museum at Strategic was excellent. A lot of fun information there for kids as well. And want to remind folks that the farmers market starts a week and a half from now-ish. And it'll be nice to be bringing folks down. Also satisfying was seeing so many people patronizing the businesses that were open on Main Street during that Chalk Art Festival. Lines were long to get any sort of service during that event, so that was nice to see. That's all I have.
Thank you. For my council report, continuing our efforts to promote our America 250 Bountiful events. As part of Red, White, and Move, I am leading a bike ride to Elephant Rock Friday morning at 6 a.m. We will be going at what I like to call party pace, meaning no one will be dropped. There will be plenty of drink breaks. I'm excited that Councilman Murray has committed to come ride with me, and now that it's public, he is publicly committed to riding with me. This is one of those events that you can earn points for if you are working on your getting 250 points to go to our prize party. So please help spread the word, and if you're so inclined, please come join us. There are Combination of rides and hikes happening at least one each week for the next several weeks. So welcome anyone who wants to come join us. My husband has also been voluntold for this ride. He's looking forward to it. And the dog has been voluntold for several of the hikes, so. And with that, we will conclude our council reports and move to the next item, which is consideration of approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid on May 20th and May 27th, as well as the April financial report. As the council had an opportunity to review those items, and do you have any questions or prepared to make any motions?
I'm prepared to make a motion if there is no comments.
Does not look like there are any.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the expenditures greater than 1,000 for May 20th and 27th and the April 2026 financial report.
Second. Sorry.
So there was a motion from Councilmember Bell, second from Councilmember Higginson, accompanying some play calling signals about rotating graphics.
That was portrait to landscape, international code.
Okay, I think that was a signal that he prefers landscape for size of text, which is like a sub-comment to his seconding of the motion. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Noted. And I'm sure that we will return to landscape mode. Council members, next item on our agenda is one I have been looking forward to, and that is the formal introduction of our new South Davis Metro Fire Chief, Jeff Larson. Chief Larson is here with us tonight, and we're going to give him a few minutes. I will see if I can make him just a little bit nervous with an intro. As you all know, in becoming mayor, I get to serve on the fire board, and so have gotten to spend a bit more time than my prior council service allowed with our firefighters, and it has been a really great time to learn lots of new things about what they do, to spend some really meaningful time with them as they have gone through mourning Chief Stewart, and then getting to focus on their future. And part of that time has been getting to spend a lot of time with Chief Larson. So some of the things I have learned about him: he is a Bountiful native. He grew up here in Bountiful, not too far from where I currently live in Bountiful. He's a Bountiful High graduate. He has a long career that has included being not just a firefighter, but also an EMT and a paramedic. He's got a depth of experience, having worked for a number of different organizations throughout his career, from Gold Cross to the Davis County Sheriff's Department, to the West Valley Fire Department, South Lake Fire Department, the University of Utah, where he was involved in their Air Med program, and of course here with South Davis. So he was far and away our choice to take over as the new chief of our fire department, and so excited to formally introduce him to you as our chief. There will be a badge ceremony that will be taking place probably in a few weeks, to which we'll be inviting all of you and members of the public. But at this point, we'd like to invite Chief Larson to come up and share with us kind of his vision, and he can correct any of his bio that he'd like to correct that I've shared.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Staff, it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, so you're right on the bio. I've had an incredible career, more than I could ever really ask for, to be honest with you. When I graduated from Bountiful High School, I was working at the original CarMax restaurant. Worked there I started there when I was in 7th grade, and so I know a lot of people from Bountiful from the interactions there. So yeah, I just wanted to go work for the fire department and be an EMT, and almost 30 years later, here I am. So It's an incredible privilege to be appointed as the fire chief of South Davis. And I look forward to the next phase. I really want to focus on career development, succession planning for our organization, and really excited to see the next chapter of South Davis. I remember back when we first started the conversations of consolidation back in 2003, 2004 timeframe from South Davis Fire District and Bountiful City Fire Department. At the time, I was employed part-time at South Davis Fire District. And, there was a lot of us that never imagined that this would even happen. And now we look at it. Just last year, we celebrated 20 years as an organization since the consolidation and obtaining the paramedic licensure. And now looking at our program, our staff, we're right at 100 sworn firefighters and an additional roughly 15 staff members. So last year we ran close to 7,500 calls a year, and we just continue to grow. So it's an incredible honor. I look forward to the future. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions or field any questions or concerns from the council members or from the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Council members, do you have any questions for Chief Larson?
No questions, just super excited and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We look forward to many years of getting to work with you. We hope that you won't be busy this summer.
That's our hope. If last weekend and the last 48 hours has been any indicators of what we're seeing with some red flag warnings and with the concern of the conditions, we'll cross our fingers, but we'll all be in this together, right? So thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda, council members, is consideration of our budget, both the fiscal year 26 amended budget and the fiscal year 27 final budget. This item has many different subcomponents. So we are going to start off with a budget presentation by Tyson Beck, and then we'll proceed through a number of the public hearing items once we get through Tyson's initial presentation on the budget. So we'll go ahead and turn things over to Tyson for now. I know some of you will have some questions or feedback. We'll probably, just to give you guys an idea of process and planning, we'll probably hold some of those council questions until after we've concluded the public hearing component. Tyson, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time tonight, and again, appreciate all the time that you've spent so far in the budgeting process. We understand that it is a big ask, and we thank you for the extra time that you've spent in all the committee hearings. The budget of a government is complex, and the state legislature makes it even more complex with all of the requirements, statutory requirements that we must fulfill. So tonight we'll be covering many items that are to inform and also to meet the statutory minimum requirements of passing a budget for a city. So as these projectors warm up, also want to say thanks to all the department heads and department head representatives that are here tonight. We wanted to make sure that if there are any questions that arise, that we can properly address them. But either I can take a stab, or I may defer to the experts in their specific departments on it. All right, so tonight we are going to have a presentation on the fiscal 27 budget. We'll have a presentation on water and the water rate that is being proposed as an increase for the budget. We'll also have a power presentation, also proposing a electric meter rate increase. We'll have a presentation on the fiscal 26 budget amendments, so opening our current year so that we can amend those line items that have gone over. And then we will hold 5 separate public hearings. So again, as I mentioned, the statutory requirements for specific elements of the budget require their own separate hearings. So we'll be holding 5 separate public hearings. As these public hearings proceed, we'll document the questions that arise, and after the question period is over, the public hearing period is over, we'll, as staff, will try and respond to as many of those as possible. Then at the end, we will consider the approval of ordinances 2026-05 and 2026-06, and at that point, we'll definitely have a robust discussion with the council and finalize things at that point. So that's kind of the outline for tonight. So diving into our fiscal year 2027 final budget. As we had previously done in our tentative adoption, I just wanted to quickly revisit the timeline that goes into the budgeting process. For those members of the public that weren't there during the tentative adoption, we do start the budgeting process clear in the prior year. So in 2025, we were beginning the process to look at department revenues, expenses, looking at the analysis that goes into it, and begin that budget creation process. It continued on through March and in April, and then in May, we did a full tentative adoption. And now we're to the point where we're ready to look at final adoption for the city's fiscal year 2027 budget. The drivers behind the budget really stem from these council priorities, and the council will remember these very well as we've discussed them. These are basically the backbone by which we build the budget, so that we can ensure that whatever we are putting into the budget, how we're spending the city's resources, align with the council's priority policies. So just one quick note that these are not necessarily in a specific order of importance. The tier 1, 2, and 3 are more kind of whether we need to focus more attention on one versus another currently. Not that necessarily any tier 3 is of lesser importance than a tier 1, generally speaking, but again, just wanted to kind of do a little bit of a note on that. So high level, the city's budget is comprised of 30 different departments, and those are all encompassed within 17 different funds. So in our accounting or in the budgeting practices of the city, we consolidate items and operations into what we call a fund. And within those funds, the operations are supposed to be self-sustaining. So there are various different funds of the city, and if we go to the very high level, the total budget for fiscal 27 is projected at $104 million. And that's a balanced budget. Our revenues do match our expenses at that total. So if we look at the high level of the revenue, so how are we funding the city operations? This is kind of a breakdown by general category of those revenue sources. Just wanted to highlight just a couple. So for instance, the property taxes that we collect only make up 5% of our revenue sources. Sales tax makes up 12%. The power utility charges, that makes up 36%. Water fees would be 7%, and so on. You can see kind of that breakdown there. If we flip to the use side, so how do we spend the money that we get? This is that breakdown. So the general fund, the general operations of the city, 27%, light and power is 41%, water and fiber are 7%, sanitation 5%. So that's kind of the whole city in a pie graph. So if we look at the key elements of the fiscal 27 budget and how it changed from 2026's budget, we're not looking at any property tax increase. The budget does include a 3% cost of living adjustment. It has a 2.5% estimate of increased medical insurance premiums, 5% employee merit increases for those that are eligible. It does encompass a few new positions, and those are outlined there. And then at the bottom, it does include various fee increases. So we'll be talking about in detail tonight about the 3% for the culinary water rates, 4% for electric metered sales, and there's a few others that are of note there. The financial policies that are tied to the budgeting process. So there are many that are administrative. So if we're talking about what we do in utility billing and how we process bills and do the collection process, that could be anything from credit card processing to just the cash receiving transactions. So that's more of the administrative side. On the legislative side, we do have financial policies that have been approved by the council. So two of those are the fund balance and reserve policy that was adopted originally in June of 2020, and then the city's investment policy, and that was originally adopted in July of 2016. So those are the more formal policies, but just high level, we're not changing those procedures or practices, but wanted to highlight them as part of this process, as it is these are all financial policies. So if we, again, go high level and look at all of the funds of the city and what is entailed in this 2027 final budget, this is the breakdown. So the main thing that I wanted to point out here is at the very bottom, where you see total budgeted revenue column and then the total budgeted expenses and expenditures column, they balance. So again, our revenues balance against our expenses at 104 million. So if we, obviously sales tax is a crucial component of our general operations. So I wanted to just briefly touch about the sales tax rate that is charged in Bountiful City. So if you go to a retail facility or most of your purchases in Bountiful, you'll be charged a 7.25% sales tax on whatever you're purchasing. And the breakdown of that, as I've got listed there, is predominantly going to the state of Utah. So that's 68% of the sales tax dollars that are collected here in Bountiful go to the state. We get the 1% of that total, and then we also do get a 0.1% for our RAP tax. So that's just kind of high level what the sales tax rate is in Bountiful and where those sales tax dollars go. Property taxes, obviously that's always a crucial discussion when you're talking about a city's budget. So the total property tax, again, we're not proposing any increase in the tax for our fiscal 27. The total would be 4.4 million, and that's broken out by 3.8 million in our general levy and 565,000 towards the debt service on our general obligation bond that was issued back in 2022. So that's where our property tax comes from. If we look at the median homeowner, so if the county puts out a listing of all of the values of homeowners within Bountiful, the median is that dead center point of that full list of values. And that they're saying for 2025 was 551,000. So that median homeowner did pay $239 in 2025 calendar year. Just to give you an idea of what property tax went to the city from that tax bill. For 2025, most of the tax bill that we do receive goes to the school district or to Davis County itself. We only actually get about 7% of the typical tax bill. The last property tax rate for the city was in calendar year 2021, our fiscal year 2022, just to give some historical data to our property tax levy. So the next slide here is kind of an illustration trying to arrive at where we are with our property tax rate compared to other Davis County cities. So the first column that you see that's titled City Tax Rate, this would be just the portion that each city charges for either debt or bond obligations or their general obligations, the general levy. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, we are the second lowest in Davis County. You can see us at the very bottom there, just above West Point. So West Point would be the lowest, we would be the second lowest. If we try and do a apples to apples comparison, that total comparison tax rate column, that's what that's trying to arrive at. So there are many cities within Davis County that don't necessarily have a recreation district, that don't have a fire district, that don't have an irrigation district, that are separate from city operations. So if we're trying do a apples-to-apples comparison to say, as close as we can, to say how does Bountiful's tax rate truly compare to other cities within Davis County. That's what that column is trying to arrive at. And you can see in gray that there are 2 cities with that total comparison tax rate that are lower than Bountiful City. One is South Weber and the other is Layton City. So those are the only 2 cities in Davis County that would have a total comparison tax rate lower than ours. So we are in a great position from our tax rate and how we tax our residents from a property tax perspective. So one of the requirements that we do need to cover tonight is a disclosure of the administrative services transfer or administrative services reimbursement. The general fund has lots of employees, and many of those employees provide services to the enterprise funds. So there are anything from HR to payroll to engineering, planning, building maintenance, utility billing, budgeting. All of these services are provided on behalf of the enterprise funds, and the general fund is basically the fund that houses the personnel costs for all of those employees. So this is a calculation that's done each year to reimburse the general fund for these various administrative services that are provided. So for fiscal year 27, that total is 1.7 million. And here is the breakout between which departments in the general fund are receiving that reimbursement and which enterprise funds are paying that reimbursement. So you can take a look at that 1.7 million and how that is broken down by fund in the general fund and then by enterprise fund on the right-hand side. So as part of the fiscal 27 budget, we are doing some recreation, arts, and parks grants, so our RAP tax grants. And we do have a subcommittee that met to do an initial recommendation to the full city council. This is that initial recommendation, and this is just kind of informational for the moment, and we'll definitely take some time later on in the meeting to discuss each one of those and then the full council's desires on where those RAP tax funds should be allocated.
Tyson, could you just mention what the total RAP tax grant budget is on the slide?
Thank you. So we have a total RAP tax grant budget of $87,000, and this is 10% of the total RAP tax, again, per the city council policy that we talked about in the retreat in January.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we need to talk briefly about the changes that happened between the tentative budget adoption and what we're proposing as the final budget tonight. So in that center column there that's titled Budgeted Expenditures / Expenses, this is the increase that we're proposing between what was tentatively adopted and what we were proposing as the final. So that's $654,000 would be the increase as long as the council's comfortable with these items. This is just a summary sheet. We'll dive into each one of those in the next couple slides. So the general fund, we're proposing it increase from the tentative by $69,000. The Parks Department would be increased by $58,000 of that $69,000. You'll remember that we discussed the July 4th 24th fireworks show, and that we wanted to potentially increase that budget. So the final budget does include $10,000 more than was adopted in the tentative. The $48,000 for the Parks Department would be increasing in personnel services. This was because of a market study that was done between the tentative adoption and now. And in that study, it was determined that 8 full-time positions would be needing a 5% bump to stay within market. The Finance Department expenditures would increase by $5,000 to cover the additional cost of what was budgeted for the Assistant Finance Director and the actual hiring of that position. Engineering Department expenditures would increase by $5,900 for the part-time administrative assistant. And this one was a budget flaw on my part, I'm afraid, where Lloyd had communicated the proper number in the budget to me, and it had not been translated to the tentative budget that was adopted. So this would be just a clerical error on my part, I'm afraid. The Capital Projects Fund is, as we know, the general fund is very much tied to the Capital Projects Fund in their funding source. They share our sales tax revenue. And so whenever we need to increase general fund expenditures, that translates into a decreased sales tax revenue in the Capital Projects Fund. So with these changes, we would be balancing those changes by reducing the amount of sales tax that gets allocated to the Capital Projects Fund. The RAP tax expenditure increase would be $43,000, and this would be to add a line that was again erroneously excluded for the 5% RAP tax allocation. So we would be adding a completely separate new line for the public art in the RAP tax fund. And again, this would be back on our policy decision back in the January retreat regarding how those RAP tax funds should be utilized. So this one would just be making sure that we include budget for that public art. That would be that 5%. Cemetery increase, again, we had the market study that was done, and 3 full-time positions would be increased by 5%. Golf would be increased by $372,000. So again, that same market study showed that 3 full-time positions would need to be bumped by 5%. And then we did some analysis, and kudos goes to our finance director, who recommended that we look at purchasing the golf fleet instead of leasing the golf fleet. This, over the 5-year lease, would save the city $53,735 by purchasing them outright instead of leasing them. So the proposal would be that we increase the fiscal 27 capital budget by this $353,000, and so that's just the differential between the $103,000 that was budgeted for the lease and the $456,000 that would be for the full capital purchase of that golf cart fleet. Then in the general liability internal service fund, we do need to increase that budget by $30,000. The insurance premium quotes that we received for the tentative did not pan out to be as low as we were hoping, and so we do need to increase that by the $30,000 to cover the full cost of what we expect for fiscal 27. In the RDA fund, we do need to increase the final budget by $125,000 for the capital items that were added between. And for those that were in that budget committee hearing, Gary did bring in a insert that showed the inclusion of the BDAC roof replacement, and then, and I failed to include this one as well, but it includes another, that one, I would need to go back and double check what is on that capital line, but there's an additional capital expenditure there that was not in the tentative but would need to be in the final. Then long-term capital plan, just a few adjustments there. Again, adding that 5% of the RAP tax allocation for public art for the next 10 years. In the trails long-term capital, we broke it out a little bit more into detailed trails, and then had some long-term plan adjustments there. And then just what I mentioned before, from the golf switching from leasing the carts to purchasing them. And obviously there are many technical adjustments that whether it's adjusting the wording, the content of the budget document, just to give it its final appearance and be as good of a public document as it can be. So those would be all of the budget adjustments between what was adopted in the tentative and what we're proposing tonight for the final. So if there aren't any questions from the council, we would then proceed to our presentations on our water rates and our power rates.
Council members, do you have any questions at this time, or are you prepared to move to the rates for power and water?
I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure, go
And
ahead.
if this was addressed at a different meeting, please forgive me, but can you explain to me, so there's the 3% COLA increase, and then some other departments also had a 5% increase. Is that to be competitive among other markets, and does that 5% include the 3% COLA, or is it 8% total?
Yeah, great question. So the way that our compensation structure works is it's a step and grade, excuse me. And so the COLA would be citywide, so every employee would get that 3%. And then for those that are eligible, once they've met the criteria of our step and grade compensation, they would get that 5% on top of the 3%.
So that, those 5% for the parks and the cemetery, I think those are the only two big departments that were noted. Those were for the employees that were already eligible through their merit and their pay structure.
And I apologize if I misunderstood there. Those would be separate. Those are a market study that was done. So
Okay.
in order to stay competitive with the market, yes, that 5% would be necessary to keep them in that same realm.
So if you go back a few slides, I'm just,
Yeah, so there's the Parks
Yes,
Department,
so
5%,
those-
8 positions, then the cemetery, 3 positions, and golf, 3 positions.
so those are to be competitive in the market, not necessarily the incremental pay structure.
Correct.
Okay. And so this 5%, so it's the 3% COLA plus the 5% for these employees, as well as a different set of employees that receive the 5% based on their pay structure.
Yeah, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it would just be the 5% market adjustment plus the 3% COLA.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great clarification. That can get confusing.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Oh, Dan.
Mayor, mine's just a quick, it's not a clarification question. We'll have a chance to discuss some of this later, I assume.
Correct. The structure to the plan is that we'll finish all the presentations, we'll allow the public to have their opportunity in these hearings, and then before we get to item 8G, that's where we'll pause so that we can have any discussion that the council would like to have.
I have an additional question here. For Tyson, how often does the city do cost of living adjustments? And how do we determine when that's appropriate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Gary, do you want to lead that one out? Okay.
Sure. The city tries to do a COLA adjustment every year that's moderate. Our philosophy has been really we have a tracking sheets that we looked at again today since 1977, and the idea has been to do a moderate adjustment in the 2 to 3% range every year. A few years it's been less than that, and then if the market has really moved beyond where that would cover, then we have done a few larger adjustments. A couple of years ago, you may recall, we did a 6% adjustment. But the philosophy is if we do regular COLA adjustments, then it minimizes those big bumps when we do market studies.
Yeah, and I'll just add one comment. We use the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to come up with a consumer price index on inflation, and so we try and go off of that same indice each year so that we're consistent in how we're treating it and trying to tie those COLAs to the actual impact that's hitting employees.
Any additional questions at this point, or are we prepared to move on to water and power? I don't want to shortchange anyone having any questions thus far on the budget slides. Okay.
Thank you, and I'll just preface this discussion by having a high-level discussion of the difference between an enterprise fund and a governmental fund. So this is kind of a crucial concept when we're talking about the water rates and the power rates that we're going to be raising. So our water and our power funds are called enterprise funds. The concept behind an enterprise fund is it operates similar to a private business, where your revenues that you're bringing in from your charges are supposed to cover everything from your annual maintenance to the building maintenance to anything that's long-term in nature. So again, our enterprise funds are designed to be self-sustaining and not have any tax subsidy. So that's the reason why when we're considering increases to our utility rates, that we are monitoring these regularly and making sure that we are properly charging for all of the operations of the fund. So on the governmental side, we do subsidize those operations with tax revenue. So our sales tax, property tax, franchise tax, and all of these are, the subsidy comes in because the operations in general cannot fund themselves by just a user fee. So it's very challenging to charge someone for park use when they're just walking in and could walk in at any point in time. So by nature, it's very challenging to do a user fee to a governmental operation. So in the governmental funds themselves, again, the predominant revenue source is going to be tax revenue. So that's kind of a high-level concept between the enterprise funds and the governmental funds. And with that, I'll turn some time over to Craig, who's going to lead us out on the water's budget increase, and then we'll turn some time over to Luke Viegel, who will cover the power increase.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always great to come up here and talk water. So, sorry I did repurpose one of the slides from in our budget meeting earlier this year, but it's a great one, flowing hydrant. So just thanks for having me here to have this opportunity to shed a little light on why we're proposing that tax increase for our revenues. So we have proposed the 3% rate increase for 27. This is kind of a breakdown of the big sheet of the tiers that we typically show. I thought it would be better to just kind of show it like this. Their current rates are in the black. Proposed for the increase are the reds. And in the base it has the 5/8 or 3/4 inch, and then goes all the way up to our 6-inch meter sizes. And just shows what the base is currently, and then what it is going to be with that 3% rate increase on there, and then it proceeds up with each of the tiers. Should mention also the top one's the low elevations, and the lower section is the high elevations. So, all right, so now why the increase? We've been talking about this for a while, but our Mill Creek Reservoir is in dire need of getting replaced, and we are scheduled to do that. We've got the tires on the ground and doing some geotech work, and engineers are hard at work on that project, trying to get some wills to dig in and get a little bit deeper into this project. But we need to replace this reservoir because of it's 100 years old, it's got leaks in it, it's getting some root infiltration in it that we've got to get cleaned out, and the concrete's starting to spall on most of the pillars that are in there holding the lid on there. We were awarded a federal grant with this also to help with this project, so we're super happy about that. Another thing that is high on the list is our pipe replacement project. We try to replace 3.5 miles of pipe a year, and in the city that's got 180 miles of pipe, it takes some time to do that, and it takes money to do that. So we like to replace these pipes a lot of them are original to the city, so they got good leak histories, and water quality issues and things of that nature, so. Another reason for the increase is we try to use that as a means to try to get some water conservation. So, also we want to keep that resource, you know, where we can use it, so. We also have noticed a increase in the cost for parts to do these projects. As you recall, a couple months ago, I came in with a, please forgive me for purchasing pipe that was going to increase in price. And so we're noticing that pretty much across the board for brass parts and copper and poly and everything else, so. Just to kind of go over the Mill Creek project again, it's going to be kind of a time-consuming project. We've got to build it's a 3.5 million gallon reservoir that's kind of like the heart of our system. All of our wells pump to there, and then we can pump out from there to all the different spots that we need to throughout our water system. So we've got to keep this online for the first part of it while we get the first reservoir built, and then put that one online while the original gets demoed. Another reservoir gets built in there that will tie together, and then a new booster station as well to boost the water to the different areas. So just some cool pictures. So you can see kind of some of the leaks and some of the breaks that we have on some of the pipes. Those ones in the corner are the left corner. Those are ductile iron pipe that had a couple blowouts in those. The one in the middle you can't see because they're working underwater on that one, but that's a pump line, and they're putting just a repair sleeve on that one. And then on the far right, that was a long night job that we had up in Stone Ridge area. So we had a couple main lines up there. And just to show a couple more leaks there, and just the reason why we work on replacements, we got to make sure that we're trying to keep the water inside of the pipe to get it to residents versus outside. We got water quality issues, especially from our undersized pipe, the 4-inch pipe areas. They're areas that we're fastly getting rid of. We've only got a couple streets left of 4-inch. And a lot of it is we go through and have to make sure that we have fire flow, meet those standards there, and then obviously reduce the water loss. So if you have any questions about that or anything.
Council members, do we have any questions for Craig at this time? Looks like not. Thank you,
'Kay.
Craig. We appreciate all of the work your department does to make sure that water flows when we turn on the taps. Luke, it looks like it is your turn to come walk us through the power department.
Thank you. Electricity and water go great together, so I'm glad to
Would you
follow
like us to
Craig.
mix them?
Council and Mayor, thank you for having me, and pleasure to be here. You can go next one. Quick overview of our budgeted fiscal year. We have about 43 million budgeted for our total balance. I won't talk more about the enterprise fund because Tyson did such a good job with that, but we are an enterprise fund with the city. We are proposing as of July 1st an increase to 4% of our rate, 4% increase for our feed-in tariff. We are also planning a decrease to our solar net metering rate of 65 cents for that one, and then we are planning a $1 increase for our annual pole attachment fee. That pole attachment fee is for the communication companies that attach, which are currently only Comcast and Lumen or AT&T or CenturyLink, whichever one is the one at the current time. These are our major roles and critical functions. The number one is safety. Ensure the safety of everyone that interacts with BCLP's electrical systems, buy and generate electricity at economical prices, and deliver long-term reliable power to residential, commercial, and our industrial customers. We have about 17,400 total customers in the city. 1,655 are commercial, and we have one industrial. That industrial customer is Air Products, which is on the north end of Bountiful. Our electrical system includes 6 substations, 42 miles of transmission line, 90 miles of overhead distribution lines, 135 miles of underground distribution lines, and 75 miles of streetlight circuits. Again, safety, number one, most important thing for us. Over the past 8 years, we have no lost time accidents. That's over 2,920 days. We've received awards from Intermountain Power Superintendents Association as well as the American Public Power Association this year. Some of our operations, we have 24-hour dispatch, routine and emergency operations, 2 hydroelectrics, one at Pineview Reservoir, one at Echo Reservoir, natural gas generation across the street from our offices, and we maintain and monitor the traffic controllers within the city. Other operations, we respond to outages and system damages, work on capital improvements, perform system maintenance, do meter reading and billing support, as well as system design and engineering for our own system. We have 4 on-call personnel that live within 30-minute response time. We have someone from our management team on call, a lineman on call, a substation technician, and a power plant mechanic on call weekly. Just some of our outage restoration from the past 10 years, the average outages per year. 2025, we had 174 outages. Of those 174, 59 were squirrels. We still have a really good average reliability rate percentage-wise. We're doing really, really well. Some supply chain issues that we've had. A lot of these have increased from 2020 during the coronavirus years, and they haven't decreased at all. Wood poles are 8 to 12 weeks lead time. Transformers are 12 to 52 weeks, depending on the type of transformer. A switch GAN, which is it's a fuse and blade and switches inside a big can that goes out on our system. That's 1 year lead time. Fuses, which you wouldn't think would be that hard to get, but they're 4 to 5 months. Secondary conductors are 8 to 12 weeks. Rubber goods are getting a little bit better, but the prices have increased substantially, and wire is still 6 to 8 weeks on lead time. All of this being said, most of these have gone up by 60 to 100%, especially the transformers and switchgear. They've gone up substantially. Our pole replacement program, on average, we replace about 126 poles per year. That includes the conductors on the pole, the transformers, and all the hardware. We have about 4,500, 5,000-ish poles on our system, and we've replaced about half of them. We have about 2,400 left. At the rate that we're going, it will take us 20 years to finish replacing the rest of these poles at 126 per year. And some of these poles, I mean, we've pulled some tags off of them from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, so they're pretty old poles. By the time we finish in 20 years, the poles that we installed in the 80s and 90s are going to be due, so it's just this big revolving need to do is to keep replacing these poles. Underground system, we have about 1.2 million feet of underground cable. 2,000 feet, or 200,000 feet of that is bare-concentric. That's the old stuff that was installed in the 70s and 80s. It's that exposed neutral that goes around the conductor, and if you pull that out of the pipe, it'll bunch up and it ends up breaking. So the life expectancy of that was 20 years, and here we are in 2026 when it was installed. Most of it was installed before I was born. So the new jacketed cable that we're putting in, though, has an excellent warranty. And on average, we're replacing and installing new about 18,000 feet of cable. And again, at this rate, it'll take us about 30 years to replace all that bare-concentric. Our Power Resources Colorado River Storage Project, also known as Lake Powell, our IPP project, our natural gas plant in downtown Bountiful, and the hydroelectrics at Echo and Pineview, Red Mesa and Still Solar projects, contracts from other industry suppliers. This here is a map that we borrowed from the Colorado River Storage Project, or Lake Powell, showing some of the possible outcomes of the drought. That dashed line that goes right down the middle in a straight line, we call that dead pool. If the Lake Powell gets below that line, we don't have enough pressure to generate. That's what that blue arrow is pointing at, that if that green line gets to that point in December, we can't use Colorado River Project to generate any electricity. They are draining Flaming Gorge to help assist in that, so we're more than likely looking in the above area of that gray, below that black dashed line is kind of where we're at now. We are concerned that if we have another winter, 2 winters like this one in a row, we're projecting probably a dead pool, so we're a little nervous about that. And here's a pie chart of our resources. Again, I just got done talking about CRSP. Our normal allotment is 40%. We've been lowered down to 25%. Our hydro within the city is 3, our plant's 9, and Red Mesa and Steel Solar are 10%. When CRSP is low, we end up having to go out to the open market. Unfortunately, so does everybody else. Everybody else that's on CRSP goes to the open market, and that can cause a lot of headache with pricing and make it difficult to get a lower rates on our energy that we need to purchase. Talking about our capital expenditures for the year, we've got 4.1 million budgeted for that. 655,000 of that is for a service truck, a on-call truck, and a double bucket truck. That double bucket truck was ordered back in November of 2023, and it's finally going to arrive in February. So, talking about some of our bigger projects, some of you may be aware from 6 North and Salt Lake to Farmington, they're going to be doing a lot of work on I-15, adding some more lanes. That does affect the power department quite a bit this year. One of the projects is our transmission line that passes down the frontage road in Centerville and goes in front of our one industrial customer, Air Products, is too close to the freeway. They're putting in a new bridge, and we have to relocate some of the line to the east side of that frontage road. So from Pages Lane up to Parish Lane, that line there shown in red is, some poles are going to be steel poles relocated, some of the wood poles can stay, but on the south end of that project and the north end of that project, we have to relocate poles due to the bridge as well as the off-ramp widening there. So we budgeted 800,000 for that. And one thing that I will mention on this one, and 2 more that I will talk about, these will be reimbursed. UDOT will pay us back for these projects. Here at 5th South and 5th West, they're adding double left turn lanes at this intersection. So everything shown in red is stuff that we have to relocate due to the road widening. Our equipment would end up right in the middle of the turn lane, so we have to move it. Anytime we move equipment, we have to replace that with a new conduit and wire. $550,000 is budgeted for this one. And then similar things are happening on 4th North and 500 West. We have 130,000 budgeted for that. Same thing, our equipment's gonna end up in the road if we don't relocate it. So this is our own betterment project, feeder 573 coming out of the southwest sub, which is the substation just off 200 West and 1800 South. We have 700,000 budgeted for that. It's kind of the last piece to a big puzzle that we've been picking at this for several years to get a better backbone to the south end of town, and this is actually a good chunk of it, and we're gonna wrap it up. Echo Hydro, we have 1.3 budgeted to replace the 40-year-old control systems as well as install additional flow meters. And then, as I previously mentioned, the pole attachment fees were increasing from $1 from $15 to $16. This is due to the age of our poles, the maintenance that we have to change these poles out, as well as dealing with those communication companies that are attached in the pole replacements. With the 4% rate increase, this is just a cost comparison from Rocky Mountain Power to Bountiful City. If you just look at the bottom right corner, the previous 4.2% is what we are now. The change in July we're lower than them by 4.2%. In July, we'll be lower than them by 0.4%. An example for a bill, I think my average bill, I live here in Bountiful, is about $200 a month, so it'd just be an $8 adder a month for me. Operating expenses, personnel services is 6.9 million, up 359,000 for the 3% COLA that was discussed, and an increase in medical insurance. Merit increases for employees, and with the addition of a substation technician full-time. And Bountiful Power currently has 38 full-time and 4 part-time employees. And our 10-year capital, we have 49 million budgeted. Some of those projects include the rebuild of the northeast substation, transmission line and distribution line, maintenance and rebuilds, smart metering, which is one that we've been looking into for several years, streetlight system upgrades, replacing turbine 1 in our power plant, also some more upgrades on Echo, Hydro, as well as the ongoing replacement of vehicles and other things like that. So thank you for your support.
Councilmembers, do we have any questions for Luke? And by the way, the number of days and years that you've gone without a lost time accident, really that's a credit to the entire department for all the things you do to make sure that you're safe in your operations, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember, do you have a question?
I do, if this is an appropriate time for questions, or if you'd rather I wait.
If it's
It's specific.
power related, then go for it.
Just curious, I think I know the answer, but just for those who may be listening, with the UDOT reimbursements for those expansion projects, will those also account for, I know in our budget, we've noted a projected cost, I think you said about $800,000 and some change. Will their reimbursement account for budget overages, or is it just that, is it that specific
It's,
item?
I doubt it's gonna be that specific an item. I'm already projecting from seeing some of the steel pole costs that it's probably gonna be a little bit over that,
So it's, they will reimburse
whatever it
it is,
takes.
not just
Yep.
the projected cost on
And
our end.
there's also gonna be our own costs, so my time, my design team staff time, we're gonna be, anything that has to do with the project, we can get reimbursed for that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Pain and suffering?
Yeah, for everybody.
Councilmembers, any other questions that you want to direct toward Luke? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Tyson, you want to take us back to the main presentation?
Yeah, thank you. So it's great to have experts that can explain all the details, right? So we'll be now moving on to the public hearing section of our meeting tonight. And this is just to kind of give the public the opportunity to look at 5 different options. So this is just intended to cover the different public hearings we're going to have. So there will be 5 separate individual hearings. So if you wanted to speak to any one of these, or anyone at any point in time, you're welcome to, but if you're looking for specific to any one of these public hearings, that's the order that we'll be going in. So I'll introduce the topic for our first public hearing, which would be the fiscal year 2026 amendments to the light and power transfer to the general fund. So this is a adjustment that we're proposing to increase that transfer in our current fiscal year, so the fiscal year 2026. And this is because the electric metered sales have come in stronger than we anticipated. So with those increased electric metered sales, everything is tied to a 10% of that electric metered sales. So I'm just going to go quickly high level of the transfer that we do between the Light and Power Fund and the General Fund to introduce this topic, and this will be the same concept between the fiscal year 26 amendment and what we will adopt as the fiscal 27 budget of transfer. So as I mentioned, this is a 10% of metered sales calculation that we do. So this has been in place for 26 plus years that we've been transferring from the Light and Power Fund to the General Fund to help offset some of the General Fund expenses. So this helps fund essential services, our police, fire, parks, street maintenance, snow plowing. All of those are services that are done out of the General Fund. And there are many instances where we don't have taxpayers, property taxpayers that contribute to this, but they utilize those services. So by having this transfer between the general fund and the light and power fund, it actually allows those that are utility payers to help contribute to some of those services that they do utilize. So it also allows us to keep property taxes low in Bountiful. As we looked at the Davis County entities, again, we're able to keep our property taxes low because, in part, of this transfer. If we did discontinue this transfer, I ran the numbers, and we would have to increase property taxes by 84% in Bountiful just to keep the same level of service. So the transfer for fiscal 26, as we're proposing it be amended, represents 7.66% of the total budgeted expenses of the Light and Power Fund for fiscal 26. And even with this transfer, our power rates are lower than Rocky Mountains. So we're not charging any more than we need to, even with this transfer. The original transfer for fiscal 26 was 3.164 million, and this amendment would increase that by 200,000 to bring it to a total of 3.364 million. So at this point, we would encourage the council to open it up for a public hearing on this specific amendment of increasing the transfer by $200,000 for fiscal 26.
Thank you, Tyson. So at this point, we will open a public hearing for fiscal year 2026 on increasing transfers from the Light and Power Fund to the general fund. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment on this item? And if so, please come forward. Seeing no one coming forward, we will close the public hearing for that item.
Thank you. So on to the next public hearing. This would be the amendments that we are proposing for our fiscal year 2026 budget, so the current budget that we're in. Here are the proposals for our general and capital projects fund, and the column that I'll draw your attention to is the middle column called amendment requests. So I'll just go line by line and just high level discuss these amendments that we're proposing. So in the fire budget, we would propose a $21,000 increase in those expenditures due to the assessments being a little bit higher than we were anticipating in the originally adopted budget. So these are the assessments that we received from the South Davis Metro Fire Service area. The Parks Department is asking for a budget amendment of $520,000 on an original budget of $155,000, and that does seem very lopsided. And the main reason is that we received a fuels mitigation grant that allowed us to remove a lot of the fuel, the dead branches and brush at many of our parks. And so we removed that at a cost, but the grant revenue needs to be tracked separately. So they can't offset each other from an accounting standpoint. So the budget needs to be increased for that, and that's the biggest chunk of that. We did also have some of the park facilities, irrigation, and playgrounds that were replaced unexpectedly. So that was another driving force of the needed amendment to the fiscal 26 budget for parks. And these would be offset, as I mentioned before, some of that fuels mitigation grant money is there amending upward that revenue. So $58,000 of reimbursement grants that we received from the federal government. Other than that, it would be utilizing fund balance reserves. For our enterprise funds, the golf department is requesting various increases there, as you can see. Most of them are operational in nature. The one challenge is in the budgeting process. As you can see, the very last line there is a budget increase of $143,000 for depreciation expense. In years where we budget capital outlay at a lower amount, the accounting transaction requires that we go through and book a non-cash accounting journal entry to record depreciation expense. And this is the result of that, where we didn't originally budget for any depreciation expense, but we do need to amend that budget because of an accounting journal entry there. Other than that, the salaries and wages, we had a retirement of a golf pro that was able to cash out some vacation and had some adjustments to the pro shop commissions that we offer as part of the pro shop sales. Then we had various little items throughout the operation and maintenance that we're proposing an increase there for too. Moving down to the cemetery fund, this one we would be looking for some amendments for some full-time wages that have gone over a little bit there, and then in the part-time line, that the original budget was just understated, and we needed to have that original budget. With the amount of full-time or part-time staff was always anticipated. It just needed to, it didn't reflect that in the originally adopted budget. Again, the same concept there, where depreciation expense exceeded the capital outlay, so we needed to increase the budget for that amount. Moving on to the special revenue funds. So in the RDA, and we'll again address this as an RDA board, but I wanted to bring it up as one of the high-level amendments that we'll be doing for the city. In our capital account for the RDA, we had budgeted for the Lucky Slice building remodel. And so in that process, construction was delayed. And so what we thought we would be able to accomplish in fiscal year 25 ended up rolling over into fiscal year 26 due to construction delays. So this is just an amendment to recognize that what was budgeted out of fiscal 25 is now needing to be budgeted out of fiscal 26. And then last of all is the cemetery perpetual care, where bank and investment account fees came in a little bit higher than we were anticipating with the original budget. And so just amending that to make sure we don't go over budget in total. So those would be all of the amendments that we're proposing for our fiscal year 26 budget. And it would now be time to hold a public hearing on any of those amendments that I've just discussed.
Okay, I
Mayor?
will open up go ahead,
Can I make
Councilor.
a really quick, ask him, it's not a question, but just a statement of clarification. Typically, those increases are funded by reserves. It's important to note that those are funded by reserves, all of these items, typically.
Yeah, and that is always one of the challenges with the budget process is we're talking about budget, which may not ultimately end up being the actual. And so sometimes it may dip into reserve, sometimes it may not. So.
Okay, thank you. We will open up a public hearing for the fiscal year 26 budget amendments. We'll go ahead and declare that open. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and make comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment on that item.
Thank you. So now we will have a budget hearing for the fiscal year 2027 light and power transfer. So this would be the upcoming fiscal year and the transfer between the light and power fund and the general fund. The dollar amount would be $3,291,000, and this would be a 7.6% total of overall light and power expenses. No other further information, as this is the same topic that we've addressed previously.
Okay, we'll move forward then with a public hearing on the transfer from the Light and Power Fund to the General Fund for fiscal year 27 budget. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and make comment? Thank you. If you'll introduce yourself.
Ron Mortensen, Bountiful. Just a point of clarification against, the rate increase is going to be 4%, and that's on both the rate, the metered rate, and also on the customer service fee. So both of those will go up by 4%. And then the power company will retain 3.6% with the additional 0.4%, which is 10% of the increase, going to the city's general fund. Is that correct? And you can answer that. If you can't talk to me right now, you can answer that later. But my understanding is that, yes, the power company will come out net 3.6%, and the city's other funds will come out 0.4% because the full rate does not remain with the power company.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
You are correct that this is your time to comment, but we've asked our staff to make note and address any questions before we get to full consideration. Seeing no others for public comment, we will close public comment on that item and move to the next.
Thank you. So with our next public hearing, we are talking about the compensation increases for what is termed executive municipal officers. And this is due to legislation that came through a couple years ago, where we now, as part of the budgeting process, need to disclose any increases to a termed executive municipal officers. So here's the list of those that we feel fit that definition of an executive officer. So it would include also the elected officials. There's no proposed increase there, but these, as what is being proposed in fiscal 27 budget, is any that might be up for a merit increase based off of our step and grade compensation, and then the 3% cost of living adjustment, and then the total percentage increase for those specific officers. So this would be to hold a public hearing on these specific increases and take any comment with those. So we can now turn time back to the public.
Thank you, Tyson. So in meeting our new requirement from the state legislature, we'll open up a public hearing on the compensation increases for employees, including executive municipal officers. Is there anyone that would like to offer any comment on that item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Okay, so our final public hearing is to discuss the overall fiscal year 2027 budget. So this would be anything that is encompassed in that budget. So just as a recap, it is a budget of $104 million in revenues and $104 million in expenditures and expenses. So it would be now time for public hearing on anything fiscal year 27 budget related.
Okay, we will open up that public hearing for the fiscal year 27 final budget as outlined. Is there anyone from the public that would like to offer any comment? Mr. Davis, thanks for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Gary Davis, Bountiful. As one of the few citizens that sat through, not all, but most of the department budget hearing things, and I'm very proud of myself that I actually stayed awake during most of it. I like to thank the city council and all the department heads for all the effort, the work that went into doing this. I see, okay, we got a balanced budget at the moment, but as we just found out for 26, it's not balanced, or it's not going to be balanced. So I just thank everybody for all the work you've done. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Gary. We appreciate that you did join us for many of the budget hearings, and we did not notice if you took any naps during those hearings. So, any other members of the public that wish to offer comment on the fiscal year 27 final budget? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing on that item. Council members, before we get to discussion and questions from the council on the budget, item F is to consider approval of ordinance 2026-05 on compensation for employees, including municipal officers. This is also a required component of our budget. I'd like to propose that we entertain that item, and then at item G, we pause for any questions, comments, or discussion you want to have before we consider adoption, final adoption, and a final vote on the fiscal year 27 budget, if everyone is amenable to that.
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2026-05 approving that compensation increase.
Second.
Do we have any discussion, Councilmember?
Yeah, I'd like to have some discussion.
Sure.
I just a comment, this was a curiosity to me, the COLA I understand what it is, and I hadn't been through this before. And so I really appreciated learning a little bit about this. But I think it's important to note the COLA adjustments. I spent a fair amount of my own time kind of going through these adjustments, trying to understand, my own, what I would have thought it might be compared to, Tyson mentioned some of the CPI indexes that they were used, and I felt really comfortable with where we ended up. This is a question that, not every organization that you work for gets a COLA adjustment every year, but I really felt these were fair, what we're doing here, and I just wanted that on the record that we spent some time digging into those and understand what those are and how they might compare with the last 5 to 10 years. We may be off small percentages, but generally when we do a COLA adjustment, it's important to note that inflation has run way ahead. By the time we make an adjustment, our employees have already dealt with that for a year, and they were behind in terms of what their impact on their paycheck is. So wholeheartedly support it, but just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other discussion or comment before we place the motion?
No, that's a great observation. Thank you.
And I agree. I think we have all spent quite a bit of time with the budget documents, and as has the staff, and but it's still always appropriate to make sure that when you have those comments or questions that we call them out in this meeting and have that appropriate, robust discussion the public expects us to have, to know that we have fulfilled our roles and responsibilities as stewards of the public's tax dollars. So if there are no other questions or comments on this ordinance, then we have a motion from Councilmember Higginson and a second from Councilmember Child. So I'll place the motion. All in favor of adoption of this ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, now we are to item G, which is the consideration of the amendment that would adopt our fiscal year 26 amendments and our fiscal year 27 final budgets, which includes our property tax rates, our compensation schedules, and other related items. Are there comments or questions that that council members would like to raise at this point?
Mayor, is that going to be item 2 right there, that we'll be voting on that whole block there? Is that what we're doing right now?
Yes, so at the council's discretion, we can consider the fiscal year 26 budget amendments as a separate motion from the final adoption of the 27 budget, or we could consider them jointly. I don't have a preference, so would leave that to the council.
Again, so we do have a comment on a RAP tax, but that's not where we're going right now. So I just want to clarify, we're taking you're doing the 2026 fiscal year.
Correct. So we have 2 different budget motions that we'll need to make. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Tyson.
Yeah, and the ordinance itself rolls them into one. But it could be broken out that way if you would prefer. But the ordinance as drafted, the 2026-06, includes both the fiscal 26 amendments and the adoption of the fiscal 27 budget.
I think, Councilmember, what I would suggest is, because of the way the ordinance is drafted, if you have questions or comments that you want to share, or motions that you want to make related to the RAP tax budget that's proposed for the grants, this would probably be the appropriate time for you to do so.
Yeah, and I don't think it would stop us from doing the one motion, but let me make my comment if I could, Mayor, if that's
Please,
possible.
go ahead.
Okay. So I've spent a little time on this as well, trying to understand the RAP tax, and there's trying to understand the law behind it at the state level. Of course, the voters have approved this. There is a state law that allows that, then we've adopted that, and the voters have voted on it, and we have it. One of the things I was really interested in trying to understand is that these items that we do as grants, they ought to have broad community benefit. And as I look down the list of things that we're talking about, and I don't know if Tyson, if you want to, if we have that list of items, do you have that?
Yeah, pulling it up right now.
Love that picture, by the way. So
Oh.
this is good. This is good. So I just, I look down this list and I see this philosophy of broad community benefit in all of those except for one. And I want to make sure everybody knows I'm not an anti-gardener. I am a pro-gardener, but I actually do not feel like the gardening growing good fits into the RAP tax, the purpose of that, what was presented to the voters in terms of what we would use that money for. So I won't belabor it here. It wouldn't stop me from supporting the others or the budget in total, but it is a comment that I think the broad-based should benefit more than 100 people. And this is a very small group that we're benefiting. About $12,000 is the number. I do not have a motion, only because I recognize these other items in the full budget I am supportive of. So it's just a comment that I want to make, and recognize that the guidelines are that I see, and as I look at the code section, we're stretching it a bit there. So that's my comment.
Council members, this is an appropriate time for discussion and dialogue with each other. So is there anyone who has any additional thoughts on the RAP tax grants, the items that Councilmember Bell raises, or others in the budget?
Mayor, I don't have a comment on it yet. I have an opinion on it, but I'd like to hear from the other members of the subcommittee that considered those grants, what their feelings are on that specific line item.
Sure. So that the members of that subcommittee include myself and Councilmember Child. I'm happy to offer my thoughts, and then Councilmember Child, if you have thoughts. Gardens Growing Good in the community garden, I would say, is a new venture for us. It's one that establishing a community garden was a project that went through many different iterations, some because of concerns that the council raised at the time. One of our former colleagues that championed that, and the members of our community that have championed it found creative ways to address some of the concerns that we had all brought forward, formed a nonprofit, and are in their first season of operation. I think Councilmember Bell appropriately points out that it is, at this point, a small and modest venture with a small group that is participating and potentially benefiting from those expenditures. When I look at some of the other items that are receiving RAP tax grants, I remember when those were also small things, we weren't sure if they would become big events or entities that would serve multiple people. When the Bountiful Philharmonia was established, that was also very small, and now they're going to be headlining one of our Bountiful 250 events with a 4th of July concert, and so they have grown to become a robust part of our local community in that art space. The Joy Foundation and the Chalk Art Festival, there was a great write-up in the Davis Journal about kind of what started as a little bit of a renegade art feature around the post office, and now is one of our signature city events. So I think the feedback that has been offered is important one to consider, that these are tax dollars that need to be broadly used and broadly applied, but sometimes they are seed money to things that will become really important broad community events. And at this point in year one, I felt comfortable as one of the members of the subcommittee that, pun intended, some seed money here might bear fruit into bigger and better things in the future.
Thanks.
I share those same thoughts. I think we can look down the list and say that none of these benefit everybody, or everybody, not everyone will take advantage of these opportunities. And the argument that Centerpoint is in Centerville, it's not even in our city, but we do value what it brings to the larger community. I understand that community garden had been tried before, right? They'd built one before in the past. Is that true? Sorry.
I'm uncertain.
Okay.
Lloyd's nodding yes, but it may have been a while.
Gino's nodding his head yes.
Yes.
Brock's nodding his head yes. There was a brief
Okay.
stint of a community garden effort at the
Thank
cemetery.
you. Thank you. And if I understand it right, the garden got eaten by the deer. Is that, no? Okay. Anyway, that is the biggest concern that they're having right now. That and food getting stolen and things. I feel like the city has already invested in this, and we need to give them a chance to succeed. And I would think that this would probably be a one-time larger expenditure. So that was my thought process in feeling comfortable with this.
Councilman Higginson?
Yeah.
Do you have any, since you were the requester of the additional feedback,
Please,
do you have
no,
any additional questions that
I
we can
really
help you answer?
Appreciate the clarification, and I agree with the thoughts that have been shared. I think this is a good opportunity for us to provide some funding and see if it grows. And if it doesn't, then I would have probably a harder time funding it, especially at this level, for just a few people in future years. But I think that this is the right way to start it out. So, and I appreciate Councilmember Bell bringing it up, because it does stand out as benefiting significantly fewer folks than all of the others do. So.
Any additional feedback on rep tax grants or other items?
No, I know this is not a go back and forth, but I would say again, I'm not an anti-gardener. And I would also say I don't think it meets the guidelines that we've established, nor does that comply with the code. So it's not a matter of me not wanting to invest in something. We have invested, we've given land, we've given water as a city to them to do it. And so where does that stop? So I understand each of the council people's positions. I appreciate their feedback, and we'll probably agree to differ on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you raising the concern, and one of the things I appreciate about the group of people I get to serve with is that we can have sometimes differences of opinion, but always a great amount of respect for everyone's individual opinion on some of those items. Any additional items in the budget that anyone would like to bring up? And then I do want to make sure, we had a question that was asked during our comment time, particular to the power department, and wanted to make sure that our staff had made note and that we don't forget to answer that as well. So,
Mayor, I do have a follow-up, maybe a structural or a procedural follow-up to that same thing. If Councilmember Bell and I and the rest of the council decided to not fund one of those line items, do we have the ability to line item veto one of those specific budget items?
in the RAP tax grants or
Yeah.
the budget as a whole?
In the RAP tax grants?
I'm going to look at our legal counsel, but I believe as this is a motion that the council can make, you can make any motion and single out any item that you would like to change.
I would probably defer to Tyson with this overall budget. We're essentially just making a small amendment to the budget. I'd imagine we can do that here before we pass the resolution. Tyson?
Absolutely.
Great. No desire to do it. I just wondered what the process would be, so thank you.
And Tyson and Brad, since our budget is required to be adopted by state law by the last day of June, it is possible that we could consider changes or additional items in our June 23rd budget meeting, or council meeting, and still meet that deadline.
Great. Could we hold 5 more public hearings at that meeting?
We certainly could if you requested it,
No, thank you.
but I think we have now met the statutory requirement.
No, exactly. You'll strike that.
I have just a brief question, if I may. Just
Please.
back to that tax line item. Are we no longer funding concerts in the park?
So the application was for specific RAP tax grant, and based off of the guidelines, they are a part of Bountiful City already. So they're not a separate 501c3 as per the requirements. So the application by itself was not eligible.
But
But to answer your
yeah.
question, we're still funding concerts in the park. That was a request to give them more money.
Thank you.
So they already exist in our budget. This was an enhancement that they requested, but is not eligible.
But, so to my question, the RAP tax is no longer funding concerts in the park?
Yeah, and RAP tax has not funded concerts in the park in the past either.
Oh, it hasn't.
That's always come out of our general fund.
Well, thank you for that clarification.
We follow guidelines.
Guidelines are good.
You were going to say.
I have one question on the water part. We had a public comment last session on proposal to review the rate or the rate penalties. Is that something that we will see get picked up?
So it would if the council wanted to pick up that item, and perhaps we could ask Tyson and/or Craig. You know, there are actually, I believe, some increases in different fee schedules and in penalties. So if you want to ask them to explain more of what those are, we can probably go into greater detail.
Oh, we don't need to tonight. I just want to know, because I think the part of it was, the bullet number 3 is to find ways to conserve water usage. And I think there was a comment made of certain tiers. The penalty that exists today is a drop in the bucket to those individuals that use that higher tier of water. So if there is a way to reassess those penalties to help motivate conservation.
I see that our city manager has been flipping through his budget book, so we're going to turn to him.
Yes.
Yeah, this is something we consider pretty carefully each year when we look at fees, and that we would propose maybe looking at again next year. The main reason being that conservation of our water is really a double-edged sword. If we emphasize conservation, then we don't collect enough revenue to pay for the projects that we've got to pay for. And so there's a sweet spot of creating enough incentive for conservation while not negatively impacting the revenues, which is why we do those both at the same time. So I think for this year, we would propose not changing those fees, but I think it's something that we could talk about next year.
And correct me, we did have some penalties that are included in the ordinance we adopted with our drought restrictions.
That is true.
Mayor, can I add one clarifying comment to the city manager's
Please.
comment? And that sweet spot where we don't hurt our revenues too badly isn't because we're trying to profiteer on it. It's for the maintenance and upgrades to the system that we need. So I just want to clarify that it's not because we want to see a certain amount of revenue, so our bank account is fat, but to keep the system maintained.
Water
Exactly.
pressure at
Thank you.
certain addresses and elevations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to say a similar thing, I think, but what you're asking for is a rate tier study. Is that correct, Councilman Murray?
Yeah, but It could be for next year. It was just
Yeah,
more just
yeah. So
clarification that we pick it up.
I think during those meetings, that's how I felt as well, that we came to a conclusion there would be a rate tier study by next year, whatever that, before we do another budget. So as long as, that sounds like we're saying the same thing.
Okay, any additional budget questions or comments?
I do have one other comment that was unrelated to the previous items, and that is that I really would, and I'm a broken record on this, and I apologize for my hoarse voice tonight, but I really would like to continue the 1% of capital expenditures in addition to the 5% RAP tax for public art. And as I do as my Navajo ancestors did and wander off into the desert to die in the next year or so, it'd sure be nice to have another tranche of public art expenditures.
I'm certain I can get a motion that you don't do that, so,
Well, at least politically,
okay.
if not literally. But thank you, I appreciate that. I'm hoping for the same physically as well.
Okay, good. That seemed a little ominous there. Tyson, I noted that you had in one of your slides, and I'm wondering if we could ask you to go back to it. Sorry to do that. Oh, but if we also get more family pictures in the meantime, I think we should definitely do that.
Those may need to become mandatory.
Yeah, I apologize for adding in the personal touch there.
No, we think it's great. I think it's going to help Gary stay awake in all the budget meetings. But I believe while you're getting there that Tyson had on that slide called out both the RAP tax and what that 1% would be in preparation for potentially this discussion, so it might be helpful to have that on the screen.
Agreed. Thank you.
And Councilmember Bell, I see that you've got your light on. Is it to this item or a different item?
It's before, yeah, it's something different.
Okay, can we stay
But
on?
it's a comment, it's not a question.
Okay,
so.
well, while we enjoy Tyson's family, we'll let you do your comment, and then
Okay.
we'll go back.
This is just really a couple thoughts on a couple of the increases. You know, sometimes we communicate to the public in different ways, and some of that social media. And there is a vast amount of that seeming to happen out there right now. There's a more formal way where we communicate our message here. And so I want to state a couple things of our message that I'm not so good at communicating social media with the hope that somebody will look at it later. But it has to do with both the water and the power department. I just am so complimentary of the water department for thinking ahead. We see some of our neighbor cities who have struggled with some pretty big water emergencies up north because of aging infrastructure. And when we look at these increases that we're talking about tonight, we're really talking about a plan for the future. And so that's an ongoing thing, and I just hand it to them to that 10-year capital plan and really thinking through that. And so these some of these fee increases aren't done arbitrarily, but based on really good financial principles. I would say the same about the power department. I had the chance to serve on that for 12 years in the Power Commission. And when I first started, I don't think it was too long after Alan Johnson had taken that position. I don't remember exactly when, but there was a concerted effort to take care of what we would affectionately call deferred maintenance. On occasion, we get asked, and sometimes it's also on social media, about costs and how come it costs so much more today than it cost in years back. One of the things I became aware of really quickly when I got on that commission was there was deferred maintenance on our system that had gone on for decades that had to be worked at. And again, complimentary to the power department, Alan and his staff, for over those years we see this with a pole replacement, we see it with the substation efforts to replace. We're doing the Northwest right now, we talked about the Northeast soon. But all those things have to happen, and we have this pay-as-you-go system, and if we don't can't collect that money, we can't do the things that are required. And so sometimes we are cheaper than Rocky, but I certainly wouldn't think that that's the only reason we have a great power department. The service we get is exceptional in our city. And so it's just a comment, like I say, I'm not really so good at social media, and there's things that float around out there that are just in my view, not accurate. And I'd like to set the record straight the best I can. Maybe this isn't the spot, but you gave me the mic for a minute, Mayor. Thanks.
We did, and thank you, and I think your comments are spot on, and I'm sure the council echoes them. We don't ever wish ill will on our neighboring cities, but sometimes when they have an issue, it does provide a great example of why we're doing the maintenance that we're doing, so. Thank you. It looks like Tyson has found the chart with the numbers. So now that we have those in front of us, Councilmember Higginson, and maybe we'll look to Gary and to Tyson to explain where we've been on our 1% of capital projects and what the proposed shift is in this year's budget, and then if you wanted to entertain a different option, what that would look like.
So there has been historically a line budgeted. It's, if you have your budget document, it's on page 23, but it's in the legislative budget, improvements for public art, 1% of capital projects. And for the upcoming fiscal year, we have a balance of $125,000. If we were to continue to allocate new 1% each year, then that would increase that budget to $144,100 for fiscal year 2027. And so all that would be required would be in the motion to adopt the budget to also include the additional $19,100 in the legislative budget. And based on this comment, I mean, this explanation, we'd know right where to put it.
And could you, is this non-routine capital projects, will you explain
Sure.
what the non-routine ones are compared to the routine ones?
Yes. So what we have done is over the years, as we have had this policy, we take 1% of what we consider to be capital construction projects as opposed to 1% of vehicle replacements and trying to think of some of the other ones we looked at, Tyson.
Office equipment.
Office equipment, things like that, that technically are in the capital fund, but aren't capital projects.
Okay. Just to make sure, did council have any questions before we then open up? Councilmember Higginson, I'll maybe point us back to you, knowing that this is an important item to you to maybe dive into a little bit deeper, and whether you'd like your colleagues to consider making a change in the budget related to this item.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion to adopt the ordinance with that change if folks are done asking other questions.
I'm going to
and
ask you to
discussing
hold
other
because we
items.
still have a question from the
Please.
public that I want to make sure we get answered.
Yeah,
But before
please.
we go there, is there anything on this
No.
item that you want to, anyone have any questions? I think his motion is going to be,
To add in the 1% as well as the 5% from RAP. 1% of capital projects.
Councilmember Bell, do you have any questions about?
question.
Okay. Okay, while he's thinking about it, if there are no other questions, we'll let everyone have some noodle time while we ask our staff if they will go back in time to addressing our public comment question on the transfer and the power rates. Tyson, Gary, I'm not sure who's best positioned of the two of you. You can paper, rock, scissors for it.
We may have both independently done it, but
Yeah. And as far as the 4% rate increase being applicable to both the electric metered sales and the monthly customer charge, yes, it would be 4% across all of the power rates to address that portion of it. Do you want to address the second?
on the second half, this is really good teamwork. On the second half, Mr. Morrison's math is, I think, correct, which is 10% of the 4% increase would be transferred to the capital, or to the general fund, like every other metered revenue. So essentially, 3.6% would stay in the utility fund for power needs. He was right.
Okay. Thank you. And I see that he is still here and hopefully enjoyed that he got an answer. Maybe didn't like the answer, but enjoyed that he got one. Okay. Council members, we'll move back then. Are there any other items in the budget, questions or comments that you'd like to make before we're ready to entertain motions?
And this won't surprise you, but I have a question. So I'm trying to figure out, so we're going to do a motion now for the full budget, including this 1%.
It sounds like potentially
Can
from
we
that
se-
end,
Can we
that's where it's going to
separate them,
come. You'd like to separate the,
1%? It's just as a matter of principle, we just got done talking about the RAP tax. We have money in the RAP tax to go to art. We chose not to use it for art. We're going to use it for a garden. Now we're going to increase 1% in the capital projects fund. So as a matter of principle, I'm opposed to that. And so I don't know how, I'm very supportive of the budget, so help me know how to navigate what you're about to do.
sure. So I think there is going to be 5% of the RAP tax in RAP 3
Right.
over the course of that 10-year period that is going to go towards public art.
I'm good?
And then potentially a motion from Councilmember Higginson is going to say that we should supplement that with the past practice of 1% of non-routine capital projects. So we would actually do both.
Mayor, may I clarify after you're done? I'm sorry.
Please.
Rather than just past, it's also current. Our current budget also has 1% of capital projects going to public
It
art.
does right now,
Yeah,
so that is,
that's how it has been
Policy.
funded thus far.
okay,
So
thank you.
it's a continuation of what the current practice is rather than dropping it out of this next year's budget.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think you can keep
Any
going.
additional
No.
questions? Anyone else have any questions? Okay, we're back to whether anyone is prepared to make a motion.
Well, I'd much rather have Councilmember Bell vote in favor of adopting the budget as a whole than feel that continuation would be a sticking point. So, Councilmember?
Yeah, well, I'm supportive of the budget in general, for sure, and that 1%, I guess we just didn't have it, was just missed, it sounds like. That was something that we didn't see
Perhaps we
before.
could ask the staff to clarify. I think there was actually a potential shift in policy that was proposed.
Yeah, it was intentional that now that we have an ongoing revenue source from the RAP tax, that the 1% policy would no longer need to apply. So the budget was prepared with the 1% policy no longer continuing.
Does that mean, previously we had a RAP tax and we had an allocation to art?
No. And that's a good clarification. None of the RAP tax was, I don't think any of the RAP tax was used for public art prior to this allocation.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm back to where I was. I would prefer to, I'm supportive of the budget. I'm supportive of what we've done with the RAP tax, but I'm not supportive of the 1% add-on on top. So, because we're going to 6% if I get it right. If I can do my math right, 5 plus 1 is 6. And we were at
We were at 1%,
1%.
coming
So-
from a different revenue source. So I think,
It's from a different revenue
Yeah.
source, but yes, I get that.
Tyson, is it possible to tell us what you think 5% of RAP tax for public art would be either in this fiscal year 27, or what you think it'll be over the course of the 10 years of the RAP tax, just so we can maybe give it some type of a comparison to what we can see from prior years in the 1%?
Yep, sorry, my family didn't pull up this time.
This is a lovely close-up of a rock. Feels very RAP appropriate. It's at least,
Yep.
parks and recreation related.
For the original Arcteryx fossil.
And Mayor, excuse me.
Yes, while we're allowing Tyson to work his
So
abacus.
I guess what I'm mostly interested in, that would be helpful to me, is in terms of, if we're talking dollar amounts, where were we before and where will we be after the 5 and the 1? So if we had an art budget of, I know they're different sources, I get that, If we had an art budget of whatever, what were we before? What are we going to? That's the number I'm looking for.
You're wanting to make sure that it's still balanced in terms of revenues and expenditures?
Yeah, I just want to see what it is. I want to see what we're talking about. What's the dollar amount?
And I do believe that from the conversation that Gary and I had earlier in preparation for the meeting, that there was an answer on where that 1% would come from.
Yes, so the answer to that is where we derived it from is we took a look at all of the 2027 capital projects that you can see here through all of the funds and identified those projects that were considered construction and not equipment in nature. And there aren't many that come out of the general fund. Tyson, I think
Would you
this
like me to
is-
go to the general fund capital projects?
Yeah.
Or the capital projects for the general?
Yep, so for example, if you look at the legislative budget, you can see that already is $125,000 that has built up over the years for public art. That stays in the budget. We're not taking 1% of that because that's not a construction project, nor are we taking 1% of the $150,000, which is a contingency amount. So we just worked our way through the budget. Nothing in finance, nothing in buildings, nothing in police. And then once we get to streets, you can see there's $250,000 toward the Davis Boulevard Bridge, $400,000 sidewalk, and then Project 8 there, $1.13 million. And we worked our way through the budget that way. The total was about $1.9 million, and 1% of that is $19,100.
Councilmember Bell, does that help?
That's the extra 1% we're talking about, is the 19,100 plus the 5% from the RAP tax. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
And this would be your 5% moving forward.
And then what we did last year was just, in the prior year was,
Every prior year to now has just been the 1%.
would it be about the 19,000?
It's depended every year based on the value of the projects that we had, so,
Any way to pull that up?
and no way to pull that up conveniently.
If you look at page 23, though,
Of
don't
the
we
bu-
have
of
the
the budget?
fiscal year 24 and the fiscal year 23 as a guide?
Well, what those numbers will show is just what was spent, not what was budgeted on public art.
Okay, because they're actuals at that point rather than budget.
Correct.
All right, thank you. By the way, thank you to the staff who is, pulling up different presentations and
As we
budgets
go.
in real time. And I don't know what pictures would show up on my phone, probably just like grocery receipts or things I was supposed to buy if pictures showed up while I was switching between screens. So I think it's great that Tyson's got cute pictures.
Mayor, this predates me. Obviously, I was not involved in the council before, and the decisions on the RAP tax, the allocation, was obviously prior to my time serving on the council. But as a citizen, now as a city councilman, it seems to me that we've made a decision to do 5% of the RAP tax. I look at some of the other budgets in the city, including parks, and I know they get 75% of the RAP tax. But I have to ask myself, we're going to give more to the out of the RAP tax, and then we're going to keep doing the 1%. It just doesn't seem a logical conclusion to me, and I may not ever be. But it does concern me that if that's how we're going to do it, we've put it in the RAP tax. Now we're going to do it at 1%. It just seems like we're allocating a fair amount more money. That's got to come from somewhere. It's coming. The RAP tax is what it is. I get that's a separate item, but I'm just concerned about that.
Councilmembers, do we have any other questions, or have we arrived at the point where we have different ideas and proposals of the policy, and we need to move on that? And I see that our city manager, I think we should see if the city attorney has any opinions on this, and then also the city manager.
This was prompted by the city attorney, actually. Rather than creating a situation where Councilmember Bell feels like he has to vote against the budget just because of this one line item, it might make sense for the council to take a straw poll if you're supportive of Councilmember Higginson's 1% continuation. And if you are, then that would be included in the budget, and Councilmember Bell's objection would be noted. It wouldn't prevent him from voting on the rest of the budget. On the other hand, if the straw poll shows that you're not interested in doing that, then the budget motion can be to adopt the budget as it's been presented. So that's what we would suggest.
Seems like an elegant solution. Is that acceptable?
What if Councilmember Higginson just withdraws his request and we vote on the budget as printed?
Council members, other council members, the 3 other council members, which would you like to do? Are you interested in this discussion and seeing if this item has legs or not?
I'm a huge proponent of art, but I am okay with withdrawing the 1% motion.
Okay. I'm looking down this way to the other.
I'm okay with withdrawing the 1%, but if we kept the 1%, I'd want it to be more towards parks.
Parks generally.
Yeah, because the cost for redoing and up-leveling parks is not, the cost that the budgets I saw there wouldn't do what we need parks to be like.
Okay. I feel like we're getting a straw poll almost by default. What do we got?
I'm okay to withdraw, or with the withdrawal suggestion.
I think we accomplished a straw poll. So I think we have an answer. And now I'll return us to the item before us, which is whether we have anyone prepared to make a motion on the approval of an ordinance adopting the amended fiscal year 26 and the final fiscal year 27 budget.
I'd be happy to do that, Mayor.
We have a motion from Councilman Higginson.
I'll
Make a
second.
motion to, let me read it out if I could. Is that okay?
I would love for you to read it out.
Thanks. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2026-06, amending the 2026 budget, fiscal year budget, and adopting the fiscal year 2027 budget as it's been printed and presented to us today.
I'll second that.
I love it when North Rift and South Rift come together on a motion.
Yeah.
It's fun that I'm in the middle now.
It's like old times.
It's like old times. Okay, any discussion to that motion, council?
Yes.
You
in
can't
all
discuss your own
sincerity,
motion.
I have to say this.
The mayor is
I'm
going to
really-
recognize him to discuss his own motion.
I am very
Rift.
proud of what this city does in providing residents power below the cost they would pay if they lived outside the city, and in so doing, keeping their taxes lower than what they would pay at almost in almost any other city outside this city. Plus, those cities suck in comparison to this city. So anybody who wants to complain all you want, write all the nasty stuff on Facebook that you want about the decisions that have been made since I've been here. But this city does this right. And I want to congratulate all of these department heads who could be home and the rest of the staff that's here on the amazing job that they do. Thank you.
This is the seconder of the motion.
Hey, I want to second that.
Okay. Any other discussion to the motion? If not, are we prepared to vote? We're prepared to vote, okay. All in favor of adoption of the motion and the ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Council, I want to thank you for a good discussion and a robust one tonight. I think it's important for us to have discussions like this. I appreciate the candor and the tenor of everyone's comments and the spirit in which they were offered, so thank you for doing so. And we will now move to item number 9, which is the consideration of Resolution 2026-11, which is about Utah Retirement Systems pickup for Tier 2 public safety employees. And we're going to ask our HR Director, Jessica Sims, to come present this item.
Mayor and Council, thank you for your time this evening. I've prepared a staff report as well as a proposed resolution to pick up the additional pickup contribution that Utah Retirement Systems is asking for the public safety employees that are enrolled in the Tier 2 hybrid program. The city has elected to pick up the required employee contribution 3 other times prior to this. So this is an additional 1.25% that is being considered to be picked up.
This is already included in our budget.
It is, yes.
And I also believe this is a new requirement that the legislature wants us to do this annually.
This only comes up when URS increases the employee contribution amount in the public safety system. Employers have the option to pick up the employee contribution portion in public safety. That option does not exist for non-public safety.
Okay, thank you. Council members, any questions for Jessica?
I do just, a quick one. Thanks, Jessica, for waiting all this time.
Of course.
My understanding is the pickup simply means, well, first of all, there's no really financial impact of this provision, although we're to the city as a whole, because if I understand it correctly, there's the pickup simply means that it has something to do with the 401k plan and contributions that are already being made. There's additional contributions that are being reclassed over. Is that kind of how it works? Is that?
So currently, we budget based on Tier 1 rates for all employees. Tier 2 rates are currently less than what Tier 1 rates are. So currently, there would not be a budget impact to pick up the additional employee contribution or to pay this contribution on behalf of the employee. However, there may come a point in the future where Tier 1 rates would become less than Tier 2 rates, in which case we've obligated ourselves to continue paying this rate on behalf of the employee for all time and eternity.
And then, yes, the other portion of this is to make the contribution essentially the same for Tier 1 and Tier 2. We do provide a 401k portion for the Tier 2 employees. So as we pick up, correct me if I'm wrong, as we pick up an additional rate, we reduce the 401 contribution.
That's what I was trying to confirm. I said it poorly, so thank you for interpreting thank you.
It's okay, it's a complex topic. Thank you,
Any
Gary.
additional questions? Seeing no questions, is the council prepared to make a motion?
If I can find the wording, I will. I'll make a motion to approve, is it Resolution 2026-11? Is that the correct one?
Yes.
For the resolution approving and authorizing the City of Bountiful pick up the additional 1.25 employee retirement plan contribution for Tier 2 employees.
Second?
We have a motion from Councilmember Bell and a second from Councilmember Segura-Barr. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And for this agenda, we are down to our final item, which is consideration of the purchase of engineering services for the Davis Boulevard Bridge Rehabilitation Project. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm grateful, even though we were in the 11th month of the current budget year, to bring this to the council for approval. The current budget includes $350,000 for some work on the Davis Boulevard Bridge that we thought we would get done earlier this year, but circumstances haven't necessarily allowed that to this point. The Davis Boulevard Bridge is about 50 years old, and it's starting to show some pretty serious signs of age. It has some drainage problems. It has some concrete spalling and rebar corrosion issues. It needs the deck to be sealed, which requires all the asphalt to be milled off and a sealing membrane put on it. There's some other safety issues that need to be addressed, that, times change in 50 years and requirements change. And unfortunately, this has just been one of the city's assets that we know it's there, we know it's working, and we really have unfortunately been a little bit neglectful. And I want to, this is one of my bucket list projects for my tenure here at the city, is to bring this thing back to maybe not mint condition, but, let's get it to a point where its service life is significantly longer than what it is currently. So with that end in mind, I solicited some proposals from some engineering firms to help us with some design work so that we can accomplish this work. This is a little bit out of the engineering department's wheelhouse, so we needed a big assist on that. You can see that we received 2 proposals, one from Horrocks, who's a big name in the consulting world, especially on federal projects like UDOT work. So they're very well qualified and familiar with this kind of work. And also from Methods Consulting. They're also equally qualified, and they have a great staff who can help us out with this. There's quite a disparity between the costs and the proposals, and it's after a very thorough evaluation. And I'd also say that they were both given the same scope of work. So, they were not bidding apples versus oranges. They were both bidding on the same apple. I'm pleased to recommend to you that the proposal from Methods Consulting be accepted for this work. We do have money allocated. You may have noticed in the budget discussion, there's $250,000 in the upcoming year for Davis Boulevard. And so we would hope to spend some money out of this budget year for Methods fee, and then in the upcoming year, pay the remainder and hopefully phase some work into that amount so that we actually get some improvements completed on the bridge, and then look at what our funding needs to be in the future to actually finish that up. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have, but appreciate your time in considering this.
Thank you, Lloyd. Any questions for Lloyd about this proposal?
I have one, if I may. When we are in the design process, is there an idea to have any discussion, or is it potentially in the budget to widen the bridge to accommodate a little bit more room for walkers and things of that nature? Or is that not possible from an engineering spot?
We hadn't really considered that in the scope, and I would think that we could take a look at it. I don't think that it's going to be, all things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Francisco quoted me this evening by saying something that I may mention around the office once in a while, in that it's just money. You can do a lot of things with money. It's just maybe a matter of how much money you want to spend to accomplish that.
Just a question and something to think about, I guess.
We could take a look at that.
Can the engineering consultant give us an idea of what's possible within this budget to just do that analysis? I'm understanding that expanding the actual infrastructure to be wider would be a whole different ballgame.
There are some maintenance considerations that we need to address related to the sidewalk. There is some deterioration, so they're going to have to do some structural evaluation of that sidewalk. It's actually a cantilevered piece that extends beyond the rest of the bridge. So, evaluating, can it be another 2 feet wider, may not be terribly hard.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
I have another question, if I could.
Please, go ahead.
Is there a corresponding easement on the ground that correlates to the bridge above?
This is a really tricky one because the Bureau of Reclamation controls the actual easement. Obviously, the Davis Aqueduct is underneath the bridge. And that's really the governing thing here. The city has a 50-year license for the bridge itself, and that'll expire next year. We're working on getting that extended. It probably won't be another 50-year license. It'll probably be something like 25 or 30 from what I understand. There's really not an easement for the bridge. It is a license for the bridge. It's
Looking
You're
forward to the Bureau
dealing
coming
with
to
the
get
Bureau
it
of
at the end of
Reclamation.
50 years, yeah. Are they gonna come get it and move it?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Just wondering if the Bureau of Reclamation was gonna come get the bridge at the end of 50 years and move it if they didn't like it?
Yeah, I hope not, but maybe.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just, sorry to belabor this, is the aging out of that bridge and the need to replace it with something else, something that we should be looking at this point, or planning toward?
No, I think that if we can complete the repairs that are needed, we'll be looking at another close to 50-year service life.
It's plenty
It's
for me.
pretty substantial.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Any additional questions? If not, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve or accept the proposal of Methods Consulting for their engineering services for the Davis Boulevard, I can't talk, it's so late, Bridge Rehabilitation Project.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Child, a second from Councilmember Murray. Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Council members, we've reached the end of this agenda, but there is a redevelopment agency agenda. So if one of you would be willing to make a motion to adjourn from this meeting and reconvene as the RDA board with a separate agenda, that would be fantastic.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion to adjourn from this meeting and reconvene as the RDA board with a separate agenda. Motion is by Councilmember Barr, second by Councilmember Higginson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's reconvene. Miranda, do you need a pause to stop the recording and restart?
Do you want
Does anyone need a brief break?
Oh, let's power through. Yeah.
It appears we do not. In that case, I will call to order the meeting of the Bountiful City Redevelopment Agency, and this meeting on Tuesday, June 9th. And welcome everyone, and ask if there is a motion to approve the minutes from July 22nd of 25 and February 24th of 26.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Segur Barr, and we have a second from Councilman Murray to approve the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we have minutes that are approved unanimously. So now we will turn to Tyson for consideration of the RDA budget for fiscal year 26 amended budget and fiscal year 27 final budget.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight, for the RDA board, it's the second verse is the same as the first. So we will talk about the amendment to the fiscal year 26 budget for the RDA, and then the adoption of the fiscal year 27 final budget. Here is the high-level summary for the RDA. As you know, there are two arms of the RDA, the revolving loan fund and then the operating fund. And so here's the breakdown of those revenues and how we utilize those revenues in both the loan fund and in the RDA operating fund. With that, we can then move on to the discussion of the amendments to the RDA budget for fiscal year 26. As we've already discussed, the amendment request is $523,000 increasing of the expenditures for the remodel of the Lucky Slice building. And with that, we can open it up to a public hearing regarding the fiscal year 26 budget amendments.
Okay, we will now open up a public hearing for the amending of the fiscal year 26 budget. We appreciate that the Streets Department and that our Finance Director are still here. Would any of you like to offer public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment on the fiscal year 26 amended budget. And we will turn the time back over to Tyson for the fiscal year 27 final budget.
Thank you very much. And for the RDA fiscal year 27 budget, we have a budgeted revenue of 1.5 million, a budgeted expenditures of 1.5 million, and that would be the high level of our fiscal year 27 RDA budget. And with that, we can move forward with a public hearing regarding that budget.
I will open up a public hearing for the fiscal year 27 final budget for the RDA. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment on the fiscal year 27 RDA budget? Seeing none. We will close the fiscal year 27 final budget public hearing and move on to consideration of approval of the resolution that would adopt the amended fiscal year 26 and final year fiscal year 27 budgets. Any further presentation, Tyson?
No,
No
I've
cute
I've
kid
covered
pictures?
everything I need to.
Okay, well, I would have liked a kid picture, but, okay. Council members, any questions? Feedback, comment? Anyone prepared at this time to make a motion? Or we can stay for a while longer and have a discussion.
I can make a motion.
Yeah, the mayor could make a motion.
Well, you can make
I
a
get to
motion.
vote too, I'm so excited.
Wow.
You want to make the motion?
No, because I think it's awkward if I call for a vote on the motion I've made, but I'll vote.
Make a motion that we approve the adopted RDA Resolution 2026-01, approving the proposed FY27 budget as listed.
And the amended fiscal year
And the
26.
amended FY26 RDA budget amendment.
So, a motion from Councilmember Murray, do we have a second? A second from Councilmember Bell. Seeing no discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote on the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Looks like it passes unanimously. I'll entertain a final motion to adjourn from this RDA board meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion for Councilmember Child and a second for Councilmember Murray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It looks like it passes. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your budget work tonight.